making it easy to mix in and out of was not something I was paying attention to. I do that way more now. Like, you don't want a huge full spectrum bass at the last 16 bars.
On a sort of side note, how are you finding, or if at all, your music's changed, Alex, since you start playing more shows? Are you thinking about that more recently, or?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, in many different ways. So it's related to a few different things. One thing is the level of loudness I try and master my tracks to now. If, like, I was just messing with my set, some of my really old tracks, when they're paired up next to like a professionally done drum and bass song, sound like half as loud. So I'm trying to get them louder. That's one thing. The actual arrangement of the song, I totally didn't even think about since the beginning. Like, I knew how to arrange a song just by like listening to music, but making it easy to mix in and out of was not something I was paying attention to. I do that way more now. Like, you don't want a huge full spectrum bass at the last 16 bars generally. I'm trying to think of what else. Just like flow from song to song. It's kind of fun to pick a song you already made and then write like the next, almost like write the next song that you'd play in a mix. That's kind of cool, and it makes things flow together better. Themes of songs, like different sounds to me sound, I mean, sure, to everybody, like, you know, happy, sad, angry, whatever. And it's kind of weird if you like play like a happy song to like a super angry dark song into a happy song. It just like makes no sense unless it does. And figuring out what makes sense is a learning experience for sure. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, you know, after you've played sets like on a stage with a decent system, I mean, even when you're opening, like sometimes you don't have the most like bass, but like once you've tested that, you know kind of what sounds good and what doesn't. The one thing that I haven't had a chance yet to do that I really want to do is take a venue like Black Box in Denver, for example, bring like 3 to 5 versions of a song all mastered however you wanted to, be like, this is the punchy one, this is the whatever. And then the only thing you don't really get on stage very often, because at least for me, sound checks sometimes are like 30 seconds instead of like, you know, some reasonable amount of time.
Or not at all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've also had not at all. I've had a ladder in the middle of the floor with somebody trying to put up a projector for like half of a set with the lights on. Very strange, but it was what it was. But yeah, being able to hear it from the crowd and tell because like on my home speakers or my headphones, I know exactly what will be punchy and what won't. But like at a real stage, I have no A/B frame of reference for my own music. For other music, sure. But for mine, like, yeah, I want to be able to test that so that I know how I want to mix or master or even just arrange the song. Like a empty breakdown might sound great in headphones, but not good on like a full stage. I don't know. There's just a lot of that I'm still trying to figure out.
There's a lot of nuance to how your stuff translates across a big live rig that like, you just won't understand until you play your songs live. Like there's some like some songs will like go the fuck off that you didn't expect. Like I have this one that I'm working on that's just like this super low 808 and some like creepy bass stabs, and I just got a rap vocal over the top of it. But I didn't have that when I played it live one time, and people were fucking like loving it, like more than like other songs that I thought were like way better. Like they were loving that one in particular because the way that like the bass line transitions between just literally the same note and then like a small like descending pattern just like hits like just really well on a live rig. And like you think you're doing all these like crazy tricks with these other songs like to make it sound good, and like maybe you just added like too much stuff in the high end and like didn't pay enough attention to like actually making the sub work.
Totally. That's one thing I've found is like it seems so obvious now, but before I got a sub pack, and thank God that was before I started playing shows, was little tiny things. Like people will have a loud sub in their drop, as it should be, but then like the breakdown comes and that energy doesn't dissipate. It just disappears into nothing. And just tucking away like a subtle little like sub drop, or like having a sub riser in your builds and stuff like that, does more for your track than doing like all the craziest stuff in the mids and highs. And it's like, it's so obvious we're making bass music. You got to give love to the bass, and it's so easy to overlook little details like that. But as soon as you play it out live or whatever, you put on a sub pack and that break comes and you go from maximum sub to 0 sub, you're like, oh my God, this just totally killed the vibe.
Yeah. You know what? You just reminded me, you were asking about, you know, playing shows. Also, specifically when mixing, in headphones, it's not as noticeable, but if you have like a good sub or a sub pack, if you're like mixing out of a song into a song, even if like the, you know, the taking out the sub and like doing all of that in the EQs, like if you do it correctly, if it's too abrupt, it's most noticeable by far in the sub, like you're saying. Like it's like, oh, energy, 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 and then all of a sudden it's just like nothing.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make any sense when it's done live. It has to be like, you got to be like suave.
You got to be nice.
Totally.
You got to get the one that's completely off dialed in the middle, and the one that was on like all the way off, like perfectly.
Yeah.
On the same beat, or else it's gonna, yeah, like you said, it's gonna be noticeable.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
the good thing is, at least in a live setting, like you miss one kick drum worth of sub, like everyone's gonna keep dancing. You'll be all right.
Yeah. I've only train wrecked once, and it was for like 5 seconds, and it was the show with the ladder on, like, ironically.
Well, that's why you're all. You know what's so funny? The shows where there's like there's one time where I was. It was definitely like probably the biggest show that I played. I was direct support for Glitch Mob, and there was like 500 people, like, and I have never been more dialed playing a set ever. And I will make dumbass mistakes when there's like 15 to 30 people in the room, because I just know that it's like, I just feel like awkward, you know? It's just like there's no one there to like, and I'm like trying to bring some energy, but like it just feels weird going crazy and there's no one there, right?
No, dude, 100%. It's easier to play, at least for me, for 10,000 people than it is to play for like 20.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's like, not as personal. I think that's why.
Exactly. You're not. Yeah, and it just feels like you have control over the moment, and then you're just like locked in, you know, rather than like thinking about how these 10 people think you suck because there's only 10 people here, you know? It's like you're not in your own head.
Yeah.
You're executing.
I also find that somehow
I think too,
I was going to say, somehow I mix better when the crowd looks like they're having fun.
Yes.
I don't know why. I just like get more into it.
For real. Like the next song that you pick always works way better when you notice people are in it. You're like, oh, I know exactly what these people want. But if you're just like standing around, you're like, you bounce around too much. You're trying to figure out what they want. And they're not dancing because they don't like what you're playing. They're not dancing because there's no one dancing.
Yeah.
There's people there to dance. It's not because you're doing poorly, but you think you are, right? It's weird.
Sure.
Totally. Even from a writing perspective, I found it really reassuring. Like, obviously, make sure your stuff is perfect and it's beneficial to have that mindset. But realizing too at a show, like maybe opener has it worse than this case. Once people get a little booze in them, once people are dancing, not paying attention, like just make sure your motif is strong. You don't need to do crazy flashy stuff. Make sure the sub is moving and the drums are tight, and you don't have to go crazy with like constantly switching up every turnaround or adding all these crazy articulations. You could let a motif run for like 16 bars unchanged, you know, sometimes even more, and it'll still work live.
Are you saying DJing or like writing composition?
Well, when you're writing for live, I feel like time moves differently in the club, like the way people are interpreting that when they're actually interacting with everybody around them. Your music doesn't need to be anything crazy. And something I thought about a lot since going to more shows and realizing this is Dylan's philosophy that he told us like a long time ago when I just started with them. He said, make sure your song does one thing really well, not all of the things.
Yeah.
Save all of the things for the rest of your catalog that you're going to write, but it doesn't need to be crazy. When people are like in that vibe, they're not going to be like, oh, he used the same turnaround 3 times. How dare he?
Yeah.
Or she.
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
That's exactly what I was talking about with that track that I was saying that like went off live that I had no idea that people were going to like. It's because like it's so simple, and it's simple in like the sub and like the arrangement. And like those are the kinds of things like, fuck, like how did I not know that? Like simple, catchy sub and drums, people are dancing. Like that is like the easy formula. Like how does that not like click instantly?
I'm sure you guys wear headphones.
We're nerds.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys wear earplugs, sometimes it shows. I find myself a lot of the time, unless I really know the artist and all of his songs, or even like sometimes I'm at a Bass Nectar show and I like all his music and I'll be like dancing, but I'll be like, I have no fucking clue what song this is. It sounds great, but like if you can't hear the highs or the vocals because maybe it's a little muffled or whatever, this goes back to drums and sub. Yeah, nobody's paying attention to your fills. They just want like one thing to dance to. And because sometimes people can't even, like you said, time moves slower, all they want is a groove to dance to that after it starts to get boring, changes to a new groove or changes in some way. That's all they want. It's weird. Like, yeah, chords or notes or any of that in general, at least in a live setting, almost doesn't matter. But like anywhere else, I think it matters 100%.
Yeah.
I like it.